welcome back. This old Ford 77 F250 doesn't get driven very much. It has some bad tires that I'm in the process of fixing. And I went to start it the other day to move it because I wanted to do some other repair work on it. And guess what? Nothing. Didn't want to start. So I did this. I did not know if it was an electrical issue or a fuel issue. So the first thing I grabbed was a can of starting fluid, ether if you want to get technical, and I gave it a shot. The oil air cleaner right here. And the old throat of the carburetor right here, I gave it a shot of starting fluid, and it did fire up and run for just a little bit. So if it doesn't start with the starting fluid, you probably got a electrical issue. I mean, if it doesn't fire over, because I've never found one that didn't want to fire, at least do something with starting fluid. Anyway, so I determined that it was probably fuel issue, and I wanted to see if there was anything pumping out the venturis of the carburetor. So the next thing I did, I looked down the carburetor throat and I did the accelerator a few times, and this is what I got. So after determining there was nothing coming out of that, I decided to take the fuel filter loose and see what we had right here. And this was bone dry. Well, tells me I'm probably looking at a fuel pump or a switch that changes over from each fuel tank to allow the front tank to send fuel to the pump, or the rear tank, one or the other. And I got in the cab and I turned the key on and I switched the tanks, and I saw where the needles came to on the gas gauge for each tank. So I determined at least that part of the switching unit was working. So I thought, man, this was I just replaced this fuel pump not too long ago. I went back and I looked in my books, and it turns out I did. I replaced the fuel pump when I first got the truck 22 years ago. Fuel pump's been in here for 22 years. So I have a new fuel pump and some fuel filters. I'm going to change one of them out, or whatever, use one of these, and a few tools. They'll be SAE standard. Let's get underneath and see what I got. This is an old school repair here. The old school fuel pump replaced. Something that you could do back in 1977 on the side of the road if you needed to. This is fuel line from the tank. I'm back away from this because I don't want to, in case fuel does run out. It can be quite exciting. Okay, no fuel. That means it may not have been able to pull any out from the tank, or maybe the switching unit is bad. Well, we're getting a little wetness from here. That's interesting. Not much, just a little bit, a little taste. Okay, I'm going to remove the two. I think one's a nut, and the bottom looks like it's a stud coming out, so I'm sure that it's going to be interesting. Anyway, I'm going to remove the top bolt, nut, whatever it is, and then this bottom one here, and we'll take that fuel pump out. Okay, and there's the top one. The fuel pump could be under a little tension because it rides on the cam, the shaft does, I mean, and there's a possibility, depending on where the engine stopped, whether this thing is under tension or not. I hope it isn't, because when they're under tension, they're a little harder to put in. You have to crank the engine just a little bit to get that cam lobe. That the fuel pump arm rides on. You crank the engine a little bit and it'll go to the flat side of the lobe and the fuel pump will go right in. Hey, you can feel the tension right there. That's not bad though. Almost. Okay. Come on. You can do it. There we go. The gasket was kind of holding that bolt in, so if you wanted to, actually, I think it's designed to where you can just slide the fuel pump over it. Sometimes when these go bad, there's a little weep hole, I believe, right here, and they'll leak fuel, and you can tell you got a fuel pump going bad. Now, I didn't smell anything or see anything on the ground or nothing. Well, I don't know if you can see that or not, but cleaned up the surface a little bit for the gasket to go in there, or on the fuel pump and next to the block. So here they are. There's the new one, the old one, look identical. Put a little bit of grease on the shaft here to help it ride on the cam a little bit till the oil pressure gets up. It's got a little springiness to it. That means I've pretty much got it right back where she belongs. Okay, you got the nuts and bolts all tightened in. Now I just got to put the fuel lines back on. Alrighty, fuel lines are all hooked up. So now I got to go up top and put a new fuel filter in. This job may have been a little bit easier had I not run into this, because my fuel filter looks like this, which means it would stick out this way. I'm going to have to get myself an aftermarket fuel filter like this. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to put the old one back in, and I'm going to use it till I get a new one, which will be very shortly. So it was the fuel pump after all, and I'll get a new fuel filter in there and maybe she'll smooth out a little bit more. I'm sure plugs could probably stand up looking at as well. I may have fouled one a little bit with the fuel, the old fuel that was in here. I did put some new fuel gasoline in the tank to help it along here. So I think I can get on to the next repair on this vehicle, which will be in the works. So thank you all for subscribing and watching, and stay tuned for more. This is Cars, Trucks, and Detours, aka Steve AZ 711, saying hope all your repairs go well and you don't get too dirty. Working on this old school stuff, you can get kind of dirty because it's old school. Okay, bye for now.